Hello, friends. How are you today? Hello, friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Today, I wanted to come to you to talk a little bit more about Dark World Light Work and my family life and my backstory. I made a video the other day talking about how members of my family basically plotted against me and stole my inheritance. One of the members of my family who did that was my very own mother. She has stolen from me many, many times in my life. And that was probably the most detrimental and the biggest one, when she stole a portion of the inheritance that her mother left for her children and her grandchildren, and she didn't give any to me. Now, this woman has had a very negative reaction to me my entire life. And today I want to tell you a little story about the first time that I realized that she wanted to see me suffer and that she wanted to do me actual harm. And I was a very, very young girl, definitely single digit age, maybe 5 or 6, because I had just started learning how to take a shower on my own. And at my grandmother's house, my grandmother would either turn the shower very, very low, or she would use the detachable shower head, and she would stand inside the door and she would help me. Like, she would teach me exactly what to do in the shower. And when I was at my mom's house, she would just turn on the water and put me in the bathroom. And sometimes she wouldn't even leave me with a towel, which is that was the first red flag. I knew something was up, because sometimes I would get out of the shower and I didn't have a towel. And another thing that she would do is that she would always make the shower unbelievably hot. I'm talking scalding to the highest temperature that you could have it. And I would tell her that it was too hot, and she would say, okay. And then the next day, it would be hot again. And I was really confused as a little girl, because I didn't understand why the shower worked at my grandmother's house, but why it didn't work at my mom's house, and what was going on. Like, I was just determined to figure out why it was so hot at her house. At this point, I didn't suspect foul play on the part of my very own mother. But one day I watched her turn the shower on, and I saw her turn the nozzle. So when she left me in the bathroom, and I went over and I put my hand under the water. It was scalding hot. And so I just played with the nozzle, or the turn thing, until it got to a temperature that I felt was comfortable for my body. And I was furious, because I realized in that moment how simple it was to get this right. And I realized in this moment that this woman was doing it on purpose to burn me in the shower. It was the first time that I had a recollection of her actually doing something like that. I have this very faint memory, it seems insane, of her leaving me in my wet diaper for too long. And I would just sit there for too long, because I developed this thing where I was holding in my pee. I would hold in my pee, and like, even in my dreams, I would fear that like I was holding it in, but that I would accidentally pee. So I think she probably did that to me before I could even I wasn't aware of what it was. And she did countless things like that to me over the course of my life that let me know. But in that moment, at 5 or 6, I'd already 86 my dad, and I write about that in the book. And then she was done. And little did she know, she probably didn't know that, but for the rest of my life, I never trusted her. I always looked at her sideways, and I never, ever trusted her with my safety, my health, or my well-being. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I had, I'd be dead. And that is Dark World Light Work, my friends. I do this, I fight for a lot of reasons, and for children like myself, like us, who have been through stuff like that, because I know I'm not the only kid. I know I'm not the only kid who's been through stuff like that. And there are, my dad, I write about it in the book as well. He was physically abusive until I got to an age where I was able to fight back. I know that every boy that I ever spoke to that had a physically abusive father, at some point they were 12, they were 14, and their father did something sideways, like smacked them in their head or something, and they smacked that motherfucker back. And that was the last time they did that dance, because the boy grew up and he was too big. And when he hit him back, the dad was like, oh. And I had that kind of interaction with my father as well. And so I just wanted to give you that backstory, just so that you know, when I tell you that my family is cutthroat and they didn't help me out, I'm not playing. These people are pit vipers, and it's a wonder I made it out. It's because of my grandmother. My grandmother was the grace of Jesus. She was the grace and goodness in my life. And without her, I'd probably be a very bitter, vicious person, because I'm very, very intelligent. So I'd be fucking, I'd be slicing and dicing fools. Anyway, but instead I'm loving, okay,